This is my Chevy 350, and in this video, I'm going to rebuild it. It came out of this truck right here. We got this thing running at one point. However, when we put water in it, it all got into the block, and I believe that's due to a blown head gasket. I'm hoping it's not from a cracked block, so that's what we're going to try and find out right now. First, I'm going to take the carburetor off. We do have a rebuild kit for this, but I'm going to do that later. I got the carb off, and I'm keeping everything organized in boxes. Next is the distributor. The plug wires weave into the motor mount here, so I'm going to take these out also. This one was a little stuck. Cover's off. I'm going to clean it up a bit now that that's all off. Distributor's out. Time for the fuel pump. This thing's pretty rough, but luckily I got a new one. Thermostat and water pump are up next. Got to take all these screws and hoses out. Now I'm taking the thermostat housing off. Definitely looks pretty rough in there. The thermostat is also in rough shape. It did close when we tested it. However, it didn't fully seal, so I got a new one coming. Time for the water pump. Water pump's off, and once again, it does not look good in there either. I got everything organized. Got the oil filter off. Spark plugs are next. They don't look too bad, but I'm still going to get new ones for sure. All the plugs are out. Next, I'm going to take off the manifolds. These things look pretty stuck in there, so I got to be very careful not to break anything. I'm going to smack them all with a hammer, and hopefully that'll shock them and make it easier for them to come out. All right, I tapped them all. Let's see how hard this is. That wasn't even that hard, actually. I'm going to do the rest. Got to take off the dipstick now. This thing is on there. Oh, there it goes. Now I can take the rest of these out. The ones in the back here are giving me some trouble, but I got this one out. Got it off. Doesn't look too bad in there. Still gonna clean it out though. Time to do this side. There we go. This side came off a lot easier actually. Now I believe it's time to take the intake off. Let's see how this goes. All the bolts are out, but this thing's pretty stuck on there, so I gotta give it a few taps. It's coming, but it is stuck on there. It's loose now. There it is. Look at all the water and the oil. This thing's pretty filthy. All right, so we just got the intake off. Now I'm gonna take the valve covers off. Just got all the bolts out. I'm gonna see if this valve cover will come off. There we go. All right, so I got the cover off. It doesn't look too bad in here. This push rod came out. I don't know when that happened. Oh, you can see right here that it came off the lifter even. So I don't know if that's probably from taking the engine out though. Other than that, it does not look bad in here, so I'm gonna take the next one off. Got the bolts out of this side. Let's see what it looks like. Now to take these heads off, I'm gonna have to take the push rods out. So I made this box here with each number of the cylinder labeled and both holes for the push rods. So that'll make it easier to keep all the push rods organized because the rockers and the lifters are mated to this push rod and they have to go to the same one when I reassemble it. Got the first one out. This one's already loose. All the push rods are out of this side. Time to do the other side. I just got all the push rods out. Next, I gotta take the lifters and the rockers out. So I have this box with passenger side and driver side, and I'm gonna take them all out and line them up in here in the correct order. So that when I go to put them back together, everything is in its designated place. Got all the rockers and lifters from the passenger side out. I'm gonna do the same to the driver's side. Got them all out. I also went ahead and taped everything and labeled it just in case they get knocked over. We were looking at the heads a little closer and noticed we had some stuck valves, so when we tried to unstick them, they just broke. So I definitely need new valves. With the push rods and rockers out, I can now take the heads off and you can see the condition of these cylinders and all the broken up valves. We cleaned up all the gunk and you'll see that these things are in pretty rough shape. Time to do the same to the other side. All the bolts are out for this side. I'm going to smack it off. Looking at the heads, the driver's side one seems to be okay. However, the passenger side had one stuck right here, and as we looked at it, I noticed that the top of the valve was just gone. It broke off, and as you can see here on the piston, you can see where it got all smashed up, and it's just not in here anymore, so I have no clue where it went. But these two valves right here, they broke when I was just hitting them with a hammer. So I'm definitely buying new valves. These head gaskets are also in very rough shape. It's just the metal. There's nothing, no other material here that is gonna seal it. Unlike the new one, as you can see, there's other stuff other than just metal, which helps seal. So I can see why that could have leaked. Now that all the heads are off, I'm gonna take off the harmonic balancer and then the timing cover. I got all the bolts unstuck with a little help from this thing being wedged in there to stop it from spinning and the rubber mallet. Just gotta take the rest of the bolts out now. I got this pulley off, but I need a special tool to get the harmonic balancer off, so I'm gonna do that later, and now I'm gonna take off the oil pan. First I gotta drain whatever's coming out of here. I'm gonna let that drip for a little, and then I'm gonna clean this up. That's better. Let's take off the oil pan now. Got all the bolts loose, now I'm gonna take them out. Got all the bolts out, see if this thing will pop off. Pretty good. Got all that milky oil. There's all that dirty oil in there. Right off the bat, I noticed there's a nut sitting right here. Don't know where that's from, so I'm gonna set this off to the side. I also noticed that these pistons don't have much side to side, but these ones over here has a lot of play. I don't know if you can see it right there. And I'm pretty sure that's not good, so we'll probably have to check that out. Other than that though, doesn't seem too bad in here, so I'm gonna take the oil pickup off next. Now that that's out of the way, I'm gonna start pulling piston number 1. Got the nuts off, let's take a look at the bearings. Cap doesn't look too bad. This is the bearing. Doesn't look too terrible, but I'm still gonna get new ones. Now I'm gonna pull the piston out. Got the piston out. Doesn't look terrible. Still buying new pistons, and these piston rings don't look great either. Time to do the next one. Got piston number 2 out. It looks pretty much the same as the other one. I punched the top here, number 2, so I know this is piston number 2, and I labeled those there too, so I know which side goes together. Because I will be reusing the connecting rod, just not the piston head. Did the same for piston 3. Now I'm gonna take it out. I got piston number 3 out. I put punches in this one too. Now I'm gonna do it to the rest of them. That took forever, way longer than I was expecting. These rod caps did not want to come off, but I got them off carefully, and these are some things that I noticed. First, all these piston rings are not piston ringing. They're all stuck inside, which is definitely not helping out with compression. The journals on the crankshaft aren't too bad. They do catch my nail though, so I will have to get it polished. This piston has a hole in the corner of it. Rest of the piston heads are also in rough shape, so I'm definitely replacing those for sure. Also, this nut I found in there looks just like the nuts on the bearing caps. However, they all have theirs, so I don't know where it came from. This cylinder wall right here is pitted to oblivion, so I'm gonna have to get this block machined. You guys better like and subscribe because my bank account is hurting right now. Now, with all that being said, let's continue disassembling. I found the tool to take the harmonic balancer off, so let's do this next. Got it set up, let's see if it'll come off. I got it off, time for the timing cover. Got all the bolts out, let's see if it'll come off. Cover's off. Everything in there looks pretty good, but I gotta take it all apart now. Now that's all off, I'm gonna take the crankshaft off. I'm gonna take these bolts out. Got the main caps out, time to take out the crank. Crank is out, time for the cam. Had to take this part of the fuel pump out, and it came right out. As you can see, it is super pitted, so I'm gonna have to be getting a new one of these. Now I'm gonna take this thing over to get pressure washed, but before I do that, I gotta take all these bolts and accessory stuff out, so I'm gonna do that right now. Got all the extra stuff out, and now it is a completely bare block. Now before we brought it to the shop, we loaded everything into the truck and brought it to a place with a hot water pressure washer to clean it up. Now everything's ready to get machined. My engine's back from the shop, and we've had a huge change of plans. This engine was way worse than I originally thought, so I spent a lot more money than I was going to in the first place. This isn't the original block, however, it's the same type of block, so all my stuff should fit on it properly. I ended up getting new heads because my other ones were junk, and it would have cost a lot more to fix them than get new ones. And look at the size of the valve on this thing. I got a few other things too, like this camshaft that I'm going to show later in the video. Block is on the stand, time to start putting it back together. First, I'm going to lube up these journals and put our polished crank back in. Got some assembly lube on it, and it fit in great. Next, we're going to check our oil clearance on our crank journals with plastic gauge. This journal was right where it's supposed to be at 30 thousandths of an inch, and correct spec is 25 to 30 thousandths. The rest of the journals all passed also. So we torqued down all the main caps, and with that, the crankshaft is officially in. Next up is putting these new pistons in. First, we got to check the piston ring gap. The first ring was right where it needed to be. However, the second one needed some adjusting. Now it's time to ring up the piston. All the rings are in, including the oil ring. They're all spaced out properly. It's time to put it in. This piston slid right in. Time to check oil clearance. This one was also right in spec. Time to do the rest on this side. All the pistons are in on this side. We also checked oil clearance, and they're all within spec. Now to do the same to the other side. All the pistons are in. The rings are also gapped to spec. All the oil clearances for the connecting rod journals are also in spec. So far, it turns over pretty nicely. Next, we put the new camshaft in. Now that the cam is in, we gotta put the new timing chain set in. Got everything on. Before we put the chain on, we soaked it in oil overnight so that oil gets down in the little rollers on it. Next, we took off the pickup tube and drive shaft off the old oil pump to put on the new high volume pump. Then we installed it. Next, I put on the oil filter adapter. Next going on are the brand new aluminum heads. We first had to install the dowel pins. Then we laid the head gasket down, and then the head went on. Then we put the bolts in and torqued them. Then I did the same thing to the other side, and with that, both heads are on. Next we put these studs in for the rocker arms. And we did the other side. We soaked the new lifters in oil, and then we threw them in the block. After that, we put our new push rods in. Next, we got these push rod holders to put in, and then after that, the rocker arms are going in next. Everything is set correctly. Time to do the same thing to the other side. Finish the other side, and with that, the valve train is complete. Alright, so now that all that is done, before I continue working on that, I'm going to clean up the oil pan and the timing cover. Now that those are cleaned up, I'm going to put them on. First, I put a new seal in it, and then I put a new gasket on. Now that that's on, it's time to put on the oil pan. Before we put the pan on, I put the dipstick tube in and a new gasket on. Now that the oil pan's on, it's time to tape everything up and paint it. First, I'm going to wipe down the block with some acetone, and then I'm going to prime it. Now that the block is all clean and taped up, it's time to throw some primer on it. Primer's on. I'm going to let this dry, and then it's time to paint it. I got orange paint for this thing because that's what it was originally, and it's looking really good so far. Now I'm going to let my second coat dry, then it's time to take the tape off. Alright, the tape is all off, and this thing looks amazing. The aluminum heads look so good with the orange. Now it's time to paint up a few other pieces and throw them on. Now I'm going to clean up this little plate that the fuel pump goes on and then paint it black. This plate's all clean. Now I'm going to do the water pump. I wiped it all down clean and taped it up. Time to prime it. Alright, it's primed and painted. Time to let it dry. This plate's dry, so I put it on and the fuel pump. Water pump's all dry, so I put that back on. Next, I'm painting the harmonic balancer. Harmonic balancer's dry, so I put that on too. Next, I'm putting on this aluminum 4-barrel intake. I painted all the bolts black for it. Then I put the gaskets on and filled it with silicone. Next, I put the intake on and torqued down all the bolts. This thing looks great. Next, we put in this new distributor. Next, I painted up these old bolts for these brand new shiny valve covers. Then I put in the new thermostat and a new thermostat housing because it's shiny. Then I painted all these plug wire holders and the alternator brackets and the fan and these other pulleys. Next, I went through the alternator. It was making a loud noise, so I greased up the bearings and then I painted these things up. Don't ask why I didn't just buy a new one after buying a million other new things because I couldn't tell you. Anyways, next I put these new petcocks in and these plug wire holders. This one needs slight adjusting. That's better. Then I put these brass plugs in, and all these things are dry, so I'm gonna put them on now too. Alright, so we got a problem. This is the wrong water pump. This belt does not line up right, and when I try to put the fan on, it stuck out like an extra 2 inches. And this one's a lot shorter, so I gotta order one of these. While I wait for that to come in, I gapped these new spark plugs and I put them in. I also got some long tube headers because debt never hurt nobody. People say headers are very annoying to put on, and they were definitely right. I had to adjust a lot of things, including the dipstick, which now that it's fitted, I got it painted. These headers do look really great though, and they make this engine look 10 times cooler. I also put on a new starter. This thing's half the size of the old one, but makes twice as much power. Now these plug wires came with the distributor, which I was going to use. However, of course, the ends these came with don't fit around the headers very well. Now it did come with different ends to change them out. However, these don't fit around the plugs very well. So for 20 bucks, I figured I would just order some new ones. My stuff came in, so I'm going to start by painting up the water pump, and while that dries, I'm going to put on these wires. Water pump's all painted up. While this dries, I'm going to go put on the plug wires. I got the first wire routed. Now it's time to do the rest of them. Alright, all the wires are routed. They went to their spots pretty easily, and they avoid the headers pretty well. Now it's time to put on the water pump. Alright, the new water pump is on. It fits perfectly, and all the belts line up great this time. So with that, this engine is pretty much done. Now, I currently do not have a carburetor for this thing, and I'm not getting one right now for 2 reasons. Number 1 is because I'm broke. And number 2, I need to do a little more research. I want to find the right carburetor for this engine and this cam and not just get some cheap knockoff. Because when you spend this much money on an engine, you got to get a good carb for it. I got this cool air cleaner though. Anyways, with that, this engine is officially done for now. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure to go like and subscribe because I got a lot of stuff to do for this truck before we see if this thing runs.